Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Leadership and Governance Standing Committee for today, and welcome to our live streamers. We have a full complement today of councillors and their committee members, and which means we don't have any apologies. Do we need any leaves of absence?
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I could have leave of absence for December.
For December?
Yeah. Just for this
December meeting? Yeah, so can I have somebody move that? Councillor Nixon, second Councillor Cypher. All in favour? Thank you. So we'll go on to the confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting, which was on the 11th of September. Oh, sorry, October. We are in November now. Yeah. Christmas is now. Yes. Let's have a quick look at those. Can somebody move that there are true and correct record, please? Councillor Cypher, second Councillor Nixon. Just have a quick squeeze at them. And so, all in favour of those? Thank you. Business arising. Have the minutes.
A few policies there, Madam Chair, that we're following up, bringing into action. Other than that, nothing else to report. Business arising as such.
So we'll go on to review of the outstanding meeting actions.
The matter listed there from the outstanding items certainly is to do with updating the policy around the maternity leave requirements for councillors. Chris has been working on that policy and we have it coming back to the 10th of December meeting to finalise that after a couple of discussions previously with the council. That's the only matter outstanding.
So, Councillor Bell, you won't be here for the update of that.
Madam Chair, and I'm certainly not expecting to be able to claim that evening. So I have got an interest.
Happy to take questions on the draft. Councillor Bell's got questions when it goes out.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Councillor Bell.
The upcoming meeting items, yes. Madam Chair, a couple of issues there. The long-standing matter there from September regarding the legislative compliance status update, so that's a dashboard report. We last talked to the council while Cale Denville was here, and we've done some work around checking our compliance against the checklist issued from the Department of Local Government. The LGAQ have reworked the tool that they had issued last year to support councils with their compliance. We're still to get our teeth into that tool, and it will likely be the December meeting that we can provide an update on that. It's an important piece of work, but it's quite time consuming as well, and again it's about making sure we're ticking all the boxes and dotting all the I's and crossing the T's. So we just need to make sure that the process itself doesn't take over from what we're trying to achieve in terms of a bureaucratic outcome. So we'll work to bring that up to speed, Madam Chair. And the other one, dated 9th of October meeting, were those various reports that have been brought out through RYC and CCC to Council's attention. CEO had asked us to put a brief together, and that'll come forward following the finalisation of those amendments to the legislation into the December meeting. We're just checking, the relevance of each of those 4 reports back to Council and how that we can talk to that in a level of sensibleness. So they're the only ones currently outstanding.
So Jason, are they waiting for the introduction for the 3rd of December today?
Not necessarily on the last one, but it's more just making sure that something doesn't come through in that legislation that contradicts what we've been learning from those reports in terms of being complete. So they're the outstanding upcoming agenda items completed.
Thank you. So, any petitions?
No petitions, Madam Chair.
And any material personal interest, conflict of interest or personal gifts and benefits? Very good. Okay, so we'll go on to the Toto 10.1, the Toto project update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will ask Aaron Jerd, Manager of Information Services, just to come down and assist, and he'll talk to the next report as well. Councillors, the progress on the project is starting to gain momentum again after the delay that we had set aside from last month. Importantly, we were able to have a conversation and a good meeting with Technology One CEO, Councillor Rolfe, the CEO, and myself in Brisbane a week and a half ago. That's provided some good agreement around the passage that we might take forward, and we're currently developing what's called a rectification plan for both parties to agree to. That work's to be finalised by Monday the 19th, and be working away over the next couple of days with representatives from Technology One here on site with Council. The project itself has seen that new governance structure commence, so we've had project board meetings, and the steering committee meeting also occurred over the last period of time. More importantly, it's starting to see visible action from staff in the organisation, and some genuine acceptance and I suppose commitment to the project. It's good to see the testing plans coming forward and people seeing the benefits and finding where there are some opportunities to improve in the processes as well. So that's all boding well for a much more successful launch going forward. The commitment has been to a start date of 1 July 2019. That happens to be a Monday as well in terms of our financial cycles and reporting, and we have made steady progress over the last month or so in terms of meeting that deadline. I won't talk to any of the detail in the slides that are attached. That's part of what's been presented to the organisation around those updates. Happy to take any questions from the council on that, Madam Chair.
Jason, only a note when you're talking about the future focus and the within that, the solution design review, payroll and rates and revenue are one of our, or two of our really important parts of.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's, yeah, it's good to have a real focus on those.
Yeah, and through you, Madam Chair, we are making good progress. I know the manager HR was in during the weekend testing some workflows in terms of the new HR system and processes, and I was receiving authorisations to my phone asking me to do particular things as part of the testing. So it bodes well in that space. We're scheduled to have another parallel pay run again soon to check particularly the costing information of the payroll. In terms of rates, certainly testing is ongoing, and we're due to have that piece, well, the changes to the software that were required to make the capping work effectively are scheduled for early December. So once we see those in place, we'll get a higher level of confidence around our ability to generate rate notices the way we generate them now. That's probably pays and rates are the two important aspects from our perspective.
Yeah. So any questions? So the recommendation is the committee receive this update report on the implementation of technology changes across the organisation. Can somebody move that, please? Councillor Rivercombe, second. Councillor Nixon, all in favour? Thank you. So we'll move on, Jason, to the ICT Program of Works.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll ask the Manager of Information Services to talk to this report. Councillors, a couple of months ago we brought you the initial version of this report around all things information technology that's working on through the organisation. Aaron's got a further report here that gives you an indication of where things are at. It is warts and all. You will see some red flags in there about things we are behind on from a timing perspective. It doesn't mean that they won't get done, it just means the current status is behind schedule. And if I can get you to talk to the highlights of that report, thank you.
Certainly, sir. So currently we have a total of 6 reportable project categories consisting of 21 live projects at present. Those categories are broken up into areas of ICT governance, the TOTO project, application-based projects, infrastructure-based projects, cyber resilience, and data-based projects as well. So in summary, we've been trialling a lot of online reporting. We commenced a few pilots in that area to try and get our reporting processes as aligned and as, I guess, flow through as nicely as possible. As I mentioned, the revised program currently has 21 live projects. 4 projects are running as scheduled at this point in time. 11 projects have encountered minor disruptions, and 6 projects have encountered major disruptions. Now, 4 of those are the TOTO project, which we're well across what's occurred there, and 2 other projects around our governance and implementing our governance model within the ICT program of works. A lot of that has to do with the fact that we probably just underestimated the amount of business as usual projects we also have running in the background also. That equates to probably an additional 25 projects as such. So we are doing a bit of revisioning of the program of works overall, looking at how we can report better on both the program of works applications and the business as usual applications as well, to have a single view on what it is information services up to across the board. From, I guess, an achievement standpoint, the CHDC migration has been largely completed, barring a few minor issues, but they're all being worked through as business as usual. We have the CHDC SLA agreement currently with CHDC for review by the board, which I think meets tomorrow, and hopefully that's on the agenda with Sandra and the team over there to get that service level reviewed and we can close out that piece of work. We have finalised our GIS support services and business as usual services as well, so we have providers doing work for us in that space at present, and that's been finalised from an operational standpoint. And we've also started the service assurance review of the TOTO project in general, which is another that occurred last week as well. We can go for the overarching review of the TOTO project as a whole and how that's performing also. So I think in a nutshell, that's really everything I wanted to touch on. I said most of those delays just come from the fact that we're just realigning our business as usual works and the reporting overall to make sure we have a clear, concise picture of everything that the information service department is doing to ensure we're doing the right things at the right time for the right reason.
Thanks, Aaron. Through you, Madam Chair. The purpose of this report is just to keep Council aware of the activity in the organisation. We have been doing a lot of work over the past 18 months around improving the technology, how we use it. We're starting to really see a lot of those benefits produce savings in time, particularly across the organisation. And hopefully you'll start to see those more as we progress with finalising the technology one project, but also as the other projects here come to finalisation. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Yes, if I could just make a final comment too, and apologies for it. We have also started an annual review of our current ICT strategic plan, and we have completed that, and we'll look to bring that to the council as a part of our next update as well around the performance against our strategic plan at this point in time.
All right, so if there's no more comment or questions.
No, just one question. Aaron, the private use of private apparatus or devices, whatever, will that be?
So we literally had our ICT steering committee last week and actually come up in conversation about reviewing that draft policy. So we have a policy in draft for BYOD, and it's been brought up as an actionable item at our next to discuss at our next steering committee, which we actually have one booked in on the 12th of December, and that policy will be going to that group for a further discussion as operationally how it would work internally to be able to look at how we can, I guess, bring that forward as a full policy as such. We just need a bit of business input at this point in time.
So when we get the answers from that council, we'll bring the policy back to council in the early part of the new year, so that we can draw a line under it and get some clarity around what it all means. I know one of those other 4 reports in the action outstanding items relates to email and devices and phones, and we'll draw the learnings from that as well and bring that forward.
Do most employees have two phones, or would you have a personal phone and council phone?
I don't on that, but there's a mix, and that's probably the problem. There's too much of a mix and not a single way in which we operate.
That becomes a problem. Personally, yeah, iPads, private council ones, personal phones, private phones. And we can put it all into one now, can't we? Yeah, you've done it fine. So it's just as long as you can have some separation, some definite separation between it all, and accountability and
Well, can I might be the test case on this, am I? I am testing with Aaron now, the use of my private iPad, but the council email is all in the cloud. It is not on the iPad, but I can access it through my iPad. So we're just seeing how that works at the moment.
Good.
Yeah. Any further? So some,
is there at the end of the day, are we going to look at some defined, improvement, efficiency benefits, either from the cost benefit and from the operational benefit? Is there a way Tech One is able to help you measure that? I mean, is it a $4 million investment? It's a considerable investment, isn't it?
Yeah. Through you, Madam Chair, a couple of things, Councillor Bell. What Aaron mentioned before was this project assurance review that we're having done. It's also looking at, what have been the savings in the effectiveness of the way in which we've managed the project to date. So the investment with Technology One, is $7 million over 7 years in terms of the life and the way in which that agreement's been structured. So it is a significant investment from council. The actions to delay from last month do bring additional financial considerations back to council, and that will be in front of council at the December meetings in terms of what that overall dollar impact will be. Part of that project assurance work is giving us some tools in which allow us to measure not only the time savings, but some of the productivity savings that come as a result of changing processes and doing business differently. So we're going to look to leverage those tools to help us quantify the value of the changes that we've made so far and what those amount to in terms of dollars and time, but also going forward, how we can realistically measure the old ways of doing business against the new ways of doing business to give you a bottom line impact. So bring a couple of those reports back, certainly in December and then into the new year as we get the clarity around what those costs look like.
Okay. All right, somebody move that the committee receive the Information Services Program of Work Summary Report to the 30th of October, please. Councillor Nixon. Seconded, Councillor Brimmer, in favour. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving right along to staff engagement survey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillors, there is a presentation attached, but we won't go through that today. That's to give you a sense of part of what was talked about the whole of organisation day, but also the actions that we've been undertaking. So I had reported previously that we had received the initial feedback from the staff engagement survey. We've been doing some work on analysing what those results look like over the past few weeks, and we have more work to do. The pleasing thing is that we've been able to communicate back to the staff those high-level findings back through the whole organisation day discussions, but also giving us some areas in which to focus our particular attention. I want to acknowledge that the overall job satisfaction rate, which is shown at the far right-hand end of the graph on page 67 at 73% and the engagement score at 70%, are relatively good scores for us as an organisation, given we haven't been surveying for a couple of years now. The participation rate is good to see, but we'll want to improve that right through the organisation. And the overall job satisfaction still gives us a sense that whilst the indicators here, you can see 75% is when it comes green, that's still a high mark to achieve, and at 73 we're not far away from being in the positive area. You will note on that same graph that the top three things around safety, customer service and teamwork effectively are scoring really well, and obviously when the Manager of Safety and Wellness presents her report later on in the meeting, those commitments to safety are reflected in the safety targets and stats that we're generating at the moment as well. But like any organisation, we always have opportunities to improve. Certainly the areas of focus at this point in time are on our attraction and retention, reward and recognition frameworks, getting those things right for the employees in the organisation. And it's not unsurprising to see that the pinky squares about what can we do better. Systems and processes, we know, is something we're working on. The technology will help drive that. And leadership and management in all surveys to do with employees will most often get a mention, whether that's visibility or the communication of information is something that we know we need to continue to work on through the organisation. In terms of presenting that balance view, you'll see there on the next 2 pages of the report the things we did well, so the top 10 higher scoring questions, and then the bottom 10 scoring questions as well in terms of those relativities. It's pleasing to note that all of the key areas where we put in focus at the moment are being reflected, either in things we can improve on or things we're currently doing well. That says we are generally on the mark with what we're working on in terms of improving the culture and performance of the organisation, but it highlights that the things that we currently have forecast as areas for improvement and that we're developing the action plans around, certainly things that we can then go back and re-measure to make sure that we're being effective in what we're doing from the actions that we take. That's probably something that hasn't been followed up from the previous surveys, and I wasn't here when either of those surveys were conducted, the last one being in 2015, but our strong commitment to the action planning work that we're doing in generating more direct reports that allow individual departments to work on particular strengths and opportunities are also shown there. I'm probably happy to answer any questions on that, Madam Chair, rather than talk to it word for word.
No, I think the Chair took the congratulations on the top. Certainly the safety area is excellent, and I think we've had a persistent, questioning of our safety performance here, but mainly looking at things like lost time injury rate and lost time frequency, lost time frequency rates, and I suppose just about where they might be driving the organisation or in regards to safety and adherence to safety. But I think that safety stuff is very nice. I think we had a little meeting yesterday. I think this reflects pretty well on my understanding of things like our visioning values. 57% saying a very, very low score. I think in that area under 80 is not good. So you've certainly got a number of areas to focus on, and I hope the ELT sort of sees these numbers and adheres and looks at trying to turn this around, because this is probably where I thought some of our things were at, including ELTs open and to feedback, very low score really, and the organisation's retention policies. I think maybe we need to look at that, Madam Chair, sometime others, because it's only get tougher, I think, to retain employees there. We should have a strong employee attraction and retention plan, and to be at 46% is dangerous, as we're seeing now, at the start of a hottening up economy again in the area here. And you talk to all the small business people and tradies and others in the place there, that they're just hard to retain and hold people. So it's not a good place for us to be going back into another hit in the economy. So I think these surveys and these scoring areas really do give us an opportunity to really pick the hot spots and to work on the hot spots, maintain the good ones, but there certainly is some major stuff there about culture that we need to continue to focus on. Who else sees this, Jack? Sorry, who else sees this? Are the ELT
Yeah, so these results have generally been shared across the organisation at this level, Councillor Bell. There is much more detail below this, but the management team and at the whole organisation day, we talked to the staff about this and took some more opportunities to gain feedback from staff. And to answer your questions around the attraction retention, we've recently done a couple of concentrated sessions in the organisation to identify what actions we can undertake, and we've dedicated a resource and I suppose a lot of effort to how we're going to deal with the attraction retention. The other side of that is the reward and recognition for those staff that we need to continue to keep as well inside the organisation. So they're our two high priority activities at this point in time, looking at both the policy standpoint, but where are we failing to attract candidates for roles and what can we do differently, knowing that the job market, as you said, continues to change. There's certainly hotspots, for want of a better term, for areas that we know where skills are hard to find at the moment, but thinking differently and trying to, I suppose, follow less traditional ways of attracting people is a focus for us at this point in time.
So we can, Jason, highlight those ones that are, I suppose, work on the ones that aren't quite as good as they could be. But just to mention that when I look at the lowest scoring questions, there's only one of them that's under the 50% mark anyway. So we're travelling, I think as Jason said, it's down the middle of the road, so we've just got to, pick out but I agree with you, there are things about employee retention that we need to
I think it's a little bit more, sorry, through the chair. I think it's a little bit more than retention. Like, there's our values there. I don't think our ELT demonstrates the values of our organisation. I think there's a fair bit of serious stuff there, regardless of retention.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's fairly serious stuff. Yeah.
So my next question, I suppose, was just about what is the plan. So we have the results. ELT and others will be looking at how we're going to focus on getting some of these areas in better places. So to just sort of go, about 50% a good result. Most organisations where I look at is that we look at customer satisfaction. Anything under about sort of 89 to 95%, you are almost vulnerable to being taken, swapped, getting people to change really quickly. Percentages of, if I was a bank now, I think an older customer satisfaction I'd need at 99%, and because as I said, there's so many variables in what is a good mark rate, and that's one of the things I suppose we're not getting here is, I suppose, what is a state average or what is an average around the place. But what I agree with Councillor Cypher saying is that all of these areas should be up in the 80s and 90s, and certainly I think we're very vulnerable. Anything under sort of that 70 mark, but and I just wonder if there's a plan to, is there an opportunity for someone to come back from workforce to show us what the plan is, or maybe February?
Yeah, through the Chair, we are developing the plans on each of those key areas, particularly those that you've identified around the vision and values of the organisation and how they're lived and recognised in the work that we do. So each of the key areas here will develop a range of actions, and they'll be headed by an executive member to work with a cross-section of people across the workforce to address some of those perceptions, but also some of getting people to better understand the values of the organisation, but also understanding that we are an organisation that doesn't stand still, that will continue to work towards a range of objectives and strategies that fulfil the requirements of the corporate plan, the vision set by council, but it's just getting people to understand that it is a continuum, it is a journey. What you do point out is relevant to Councillor Bell. We do want to get everything into that green sphere. So, you know, ideally that's more than 85%, but getting everything certainly into the green sphere has got to be the ambition between now and the next time that we seek to take a survey. They're predicted at intervals throughout the year. So we'll have another full survey in about a year and a half's time, but in the interim we'll do some short surveys, which are called pulse surveys at different points, and they'll allow us to keep some focus on key areas, and we'll target those surveys based on the feedback that we've got this time. The important thing is to keep measuring this information. Now we've got places to start, so that we've always got a yardstick from which to go back to make sure that the actions that we're taking are producing the effective results that we're looking for. Not just taking actions to tick a box that says we've done actions, but making sure what we're doing in terms of a management perspective is effective in engaging with employees and producing more positive impacts upon the culture of the organisation.
Just Smiley, is the data able to be broken up inside, outside workforce?
Yeah.
And with the pulse survey, like you're saying?
Yeah, we'll keep the information consistent all the way through the organisation, so that allows us to keep a focus on particular areas in the organisation where we think there might be more improvement required than other areas, but also it gives us an opportunity to benchmark as well.
So I think we've seen in some places too, experience has been that you can break it up into departmental groups. You can then certainly look at where you've got to put some resources into groups and teams as well. And having a look at the, I suppose the totalitarian or total response rate within the organisation is one thing, but quite often there's hotspots, and that's where you've got to. So it certainly is easier to fix when you take, if you know where the hotspots are, the bigger groups are.
It is being done by external.
Yeah.
So People Plus is an external audio, so it's not as though there's any there's no risk of confidentiality. So. Any further comment? Are you smiling at me before, Chris? The officer recommendation that council receive the staff engagement survey 18 information report. So we read that, please. Councillor Brimacombe, second. Councillor Nixon, in favour? Thank you. So Jason, on to complaints.
Report
Chris?
number 4.
Yep.
If I can ask Chris to come down and help answer some questions in relation to this report. So councillors, we did receive a policy on the 3rd of September. We've revised, I suppose, and gone back and looked at some other aspects and sought some further legal advice to make sure that we complied with all the aspects that the CCC had asked for in relation to developing the standalone policy. There have only been, I suppose, minor changes to the policy in its nature. Chris, did you want to talk about any of those particular changes, or?
Just a couple of comments, if I could, Jason. I mean, the changes are very, very minor. Just to clarify the issue, the policy that we developed back in September did comply with the legislation. We subsequently sought some advice from King & Co, and they just suggested a few refinements. They're just basically cosmetic changes. We refer to it, for instance, as the Crime and Corruption Act. They abbreviated the CC Act. There's a few things like that. They just said it looks a little bit more professional, a bit more, I suppose, from the legal point of view, probably a few more boxes. But at the end of the day, their comment was that the existing policy complies to such an extent that it didn't even require this to be forwarded back to the CCC for their consideration, which is a requirement for any policy legislation under this sort of delegation. So there is no changes really of any significance. A couple of things, they changed the definition. We had a unit of public administration defined in the policy. They said it wasn't necessary because it's defined in the legislation, so it was superfluous. For all intents and purposes, no significant difference to what we looked at back in September, just a bit of a tidy up.
Thanks, Chris. Happy with that? Council adopt the complaints about the Chief Executive Officer 48 of the Crime and Corruption Act 2001 policy and advise the Crime and Corruption Commission. Move that please, Councillor Cyphers, Councillor Nixon. In favour? Thank you. Thanks, Chris. So we're going to 11, departmental updates.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll take the departmental updates as read, councillors. This has been put together by Acting CEO Des Howard. The CQ Rock note there is really just about the work of the officers group. I wanted to know maybe if the Mayor would like to make mention of that road's significant importance. Round table discussion, the PowerPoint's attached there. I don't know if there's anything else, Mr. Mayor, that could be added to that.
Through the Chair, and I acknowledge that Councillor Rolfe was actually at this meeting. It was an invitation by the department, the Federal Department, related to this proposed, I guess you'd say, change to road funding, or potential change to road funding. I suppose the comment would be that it was very much an information gathering exercise. Whilst there are some networks that are identified within various documents, organisations like IQRNS, different chairs of road transport groups, basically from all over Queensland, that couldn't, well, you can see there was the attendance there. Because it coincided with the LGAQ conference, there was people that had the opportunity of then attending there, even though there was some regional gatherings of the group. So I suppose as an outcome, all it was an opportunity, certainly for councils just to get together and actually identify any major strategic network, I suppose, consideration they had. Councillor Rolfe attended, obviously, as chair of the Bowen Basin Road Transport Group. So we were able to, I guess you'd say, probably sit in a room where there was a chance to show some connectivity. It would seem that, you know, this elongated multi, I suppose, commitment from various local government areas, even outside ROC areas across big regions, is the way that we see some of this funding going, strategic funding heading. It seems to be that going into this interesting period of time federally, that they want to see this collective, I suppose, road plans that have a significant, hence the name, a significant direction and or connection between major points. So it was interesting to see there. You can see that the Department of Main Roads people there that I suppose were there observers. It was chaired by Dave Crombie, who's, I guess you'd say, pretty well known corporate identity and particularly agriculture. And he, I guess, provided probably a lot of credibility around the fact that he was probably very familiar with the road networks that were represented by the people that attended. But fundamentally, at the end of the day, it was about each of those individual representatives area basically talking about things that were close to their hearts, and probably just making sure that if some of this money was going to be thrown around, I guess, in the next considerable period of time, that they were in the mix. So I don't know, Madam Chair, you might add some more to that.
And yeah, apart from that, is the last document in there, the Outback to the Ocean. I think we were the only representatives at that meeting that actually had something to present. That be right? Yeah, I think that was it. Right. And it does highlight our central, I suppose, central area of Queensland that showing the they're talking about corridors of roads, so we actually show them that, yes, here is a corridor of roads and that is very important to our central district, and also it goes beyond our boundaries to our adjacent shires, which I think is, well, it's not just about us, so it's, we've got to be all connected, so it was good representation across the state. It's good to get together and we shall see what comes out of it, I imagine, in the future. So, any further comments about that? So that's it, Jason, for departmental updates, isn't it? Yeah. So can somebody move that council receive the departmental update report highlighting key activities? So you move that, please. Councillor Milcombe, second Councillor Nixon, all in favour? Thank you. So we'll go on to what's later, general business. General business. Is there any general business? So we shall move into closed session, which is the next one. So we move, we go into closed session, please. Councillor Milcombe, second Councillor Nixon. Those in favour, yes. Thank you.
I'll move the first one.
Okay, thank you. Live streams are back on. We've got three recommendations. The first one is council received the workplace health and safety bi-monthly report for the period 31st of October 18. Moved by councillor Nixon, seconded by councillor Syther. All in favour? Thank you. The second one is, I can't read that, so I have to go through the book. The next one is, CHRC received the Customer and Commercial Services Departmental Update Report highlighting key activities for the month of October. Moved by Councillor Brimacombe, second Councillor Syther. In favour? Thank you. And the last one is that the council received the Corporate Services Departmental Update Report highlighting key activities for the month of October. Moved by Councillor Brimacombe, seconded Councillor Nixon. All in favour? Thank you. And with that, if there's no further business, close the meeting at 1:13. Thank you very much, everybody.